Aging is that awkward thing we all do, but no one really signs up for. One day you're bouncing off walls like a caffeinated toddler, and the next you're Googling, why does my knee make that noise? It's easy to think of aging as just wrinkly skin and gray hair, but under the hood, your body is running a complex, microscopic saga of molecular wear and tear, gene regulation, and cell drama worthy of its own Netflix series. Luckily, scientists are starting to crack the code. Aging, it turns out, isn't just some cosmic punishment for being alive too long. There are actual biological reasons behind it, and possibly ways to slow it down. Before we get into it, take a second to like this video and hit subscribe. It helps the channel grow and makes it easier for more curious minds to discover content like this. Aging is something we all go through, but understanding how it really works, that's something worth sharing. So, let's start with the microscopic building blocks of your body. Your cells. These tiny units keep your heart beating, your liver detoxing, and your brain forgetting where your keys are. Unfortunately, they don't last forever. One process involved in aging is called cellular senescence. When a cell gets damaged or too old to divide safely, it enters a kind of zombie retirement. It's not dead, but it's also not doing its job anymore. Worse, it can leak nasty chemicals that trigger inflammation and drag nearby cells down with it. It's like that one coworker who stops working but still shows up and ruins morale. Senescence is useful in small doses. It helps prevent cancer by stopping damaged cells from dividing. But when these cells pile up, it's a problem. Researchers have found that they contribute to age-related diseases like arthritis, Alzheimer's, and even weakened immunity. And then there's telomere shortening. Think of telomeres like those plastic tips on your shoelaces. Every time a cell divides, these tips get shorter. Eventually, they wear down too much, and the cell can't divide anymore. That's another ticket to the senescence zone. Basically, your cells come with an expiration date, and once enough of them start calling it quits, you start noticing it in your skin, your muscles, and unfortunately, your memory. Now let's zoom out a bit and talk about how your body's internal repair systems slowly fall apart. Spoiler, it's not because you forgot to drink enough kale smoothies. Part of why aging happens is simply that your body's maintenance system doesn't run like it used to. In your younger years, your body works like a sharp, responsive repair team. Break a bone, it gets fixed. Catch a cold, antibodies to the rescue. Get sunburned, new skin incoming. But as the years tick by, that repair crew starts, well, slacking. A big part of that slowdown has to do with mitochondria, the tiny structures inside your cells that turn nutrients into energy. They produce the energy that keeps everything running. But over time, they get damaged. Think of them like batteries that can't hold a full charge anymore. Damaged mitochondria produce more harmful byproducts, like reactive oxygen species, a fancy term for highly reactive molecules, which damage your DNA, proteins, and other cell parts. Speaking of DNA, your genetic material doesn't escape unscathed either. Every day, your cells experience tens of thousands of tiny breaks or mutations in DNA. When you're young, your body catches and repairs most of them. As you age, the repair team gets overwhelmed or a bit forgetful, leading to a gradual pile-up of errors that interfere with how cells function. Then there's the immune system, which is basically your internal police force. With age, it enters a state called immunosenescence. The cops are still on patrol, but they're slower, a little less coordinated, and occasionally arrest innocent bystanders. This makes you more vulnerable to infections, less responsive to vaccines, and more likely to develop chronic inflammation, a sneaky villain that contributes to everything from heart disease to Alzheimer's. Put it all together, and you've got a body that's still trying, but not trying as hard as it used to. With that in mind, let's look at how your body's internal signals, like hormones and gene expression, begin to change how your cells function as you age. Yes, even your genes eventually get in on the aging action. If your cells were actors and your organs the stage crew, then your genes would be the scriptwriters. And guess what? With age, they start improvising. Not in a fun, Robin Williams way. More like a toddler with a marker and no supervision. Let's talk about epigenetics. While your DNA sequence stays the same throughout life, the way it's read can change dramatically. This is controlled by chemical tags, such as methyl groups that attach to your DNA and either turn genes on or off. It's like your body using sticky notes to say, "Read this one," or "Ignore this disaster." As you get older, these notes get messy. Some important genes, like the ones for cell repair, get silenced. Others, including those that promote inflammation or disease, get turned up. This process is part of what scientists call the epigenetic clock, a tool that can estimate your biological age based on your DNA's chemical landscape. And spoiler alert, your biological age doesn't always match your birthday cake. Then there's the hormonal chaos. Growth hormone and sex hormones like testosterone and estrogen all start to drop off. These hormones help regulate everything from bone density and muscle mass to mood and metabolism. So, yes, part of why your knees hurt and your energy dips isn't just bad luck, it's biochemical downsizing. There's also a slowdown in your protein-making machinery. As your cells age, they become less accurate at producing the proteins they need. Imagine building IKEA furniture with instructions written in Swedish and smudged in ink. That's what your ribosomes start dealing with. Misfolded proteins accumulate, which is especially bad news for brain cells. In short, your body's internal instructions start misfiring. Your hormones lose their pep, and the molecular systems responsible for managing all this get too tired to keep up. It's not chaos, but it's definitely low-budget theater by this point. Next up, let's explore how inflammation, your body's fiery friend turned foe, quietly contributes to aging from the inside out. You know how a little fire can be cozy, but a wildfire will absolutely wreck your house? That's basically what inflammation does in your body. At first, it's helpful. Cut your finger, immune cells rush in, clean up the mess, and leave once the job's done. That's acute inflammation, and it's a lifesaver. But with age, your body starts holding on to inflammation like a grudge. It doesn't shut off properly, even when there's no injury to deal with. This persistent low-level fire is known as chronic inflammation, and it's sneakier than a cat in a sock drawer. Scientists even gave it a name worthy of a Bond villain: inflammaging. It quietly fuels many of the big-name aging diseases: heart disease, diabetes, cancer, Alzheimer's. The process is so slow you don't feel it happening, but the damage adds up over the years, messing with tissues, organs, and immune responses. So where does this inflammaging come from? Partly, it's your immune system getting sloppy with age. It starts to react to things it shouldn't, like normal cells or food particles, or that sneeze from across the room. Then there are senescent cells. Those zombies earlier, they leak inflammatory chemicals. And your gut microbiome, that once helpful bacterial community, can shift toward a more hostile crowd as you age, contributing even more inflammation. Even fat cells get in on the action, especially visceral fat, the kind that builds up around your organs, acts like a mini factory of inflammatory signals. So yes, your love handles may secretly be plotting against you. All of this contributes to a slow, silent smolder that spreads through multiple systems in the body. And over time, it acts like rust on a machine, slowing things down, wearing parts out, and making everything just a little bit worse. Now let's take a look at how metabolism changes with age, and why your once friendly plate of fries now feels like a betrayal. Once upon a time, you could demolish a cheeseburger, fries, and a milkshake and bounce back with zero regrets. These days, one too many chips, and your pants start planning their escape. That's the metabolic shift of aging knocking at the door, and it brought snacks you didn't ask for. So what's actually happening? As we age, our basal metabolic rate, the amount of energy your body uses just to keep the lights on, starts to decline. Your body, becomes a little stingier with calorie burning, even if your appetite forgot to slow down with it. This means it's easier to gain weight, harder to lose it, and every extra donut has consequences. Part of this slowdown comes from muscle loss, a natural part of aging called sarcopenia. Muscle is metabolically active tissue. It burns calories, even when you're not doing anything heroic. But beginning in your 30s or 40s, you start losing around 1% of your muscle mass per year if you're not actively maintaining it. That's like your body gradually trading an a V8 engine for a lawnmower. And don't blame it all on your lifestyle. Hormonal changes are in the mix too. As growth hormone, testosterone, and estrogen levels decline, your body starts shifting its priorities. Less muscle, more fat storage, slower recovery. Add in reduced physical activity. Because let's be honest, the couch is persuasive, and it all adds up to a slower metabolism. Even your insulin sensitivity takes a hit with age. This means your body gets worse at processing carbs, leading to higher blood sugar levels and increased fat storage. That's one reason why type 2 diabetes becomes more common in older adults. In short, your metabolic machinery is still running, but it's doing so in economy mode. And while humans deal with all these signs of aging, there are species out there that seem to skip the process entirely. Scientists have spent years studying these biological outliers, hoping to uncover secrets that could help us live longer and stay healthier. So now, let's turn to one of the strangest parts of the aging puzzle: animals that hardly age at all, and what they might be able to teach us. Not every living thing ages the way we do. In fact, some creatures basically give aging the finger. Scientists call them negligibly senescent species, which is a very fancy way of saying, I'm old, but I'm not falling apart like you are. Let's start with the naked mole rat. Not the most photogenic animal, sure, but this wrinkly underground rodent lives up to 30 years with barely any signs of aging. Their cells resist stress, they almost never get cancer, and their organs stay surprisingly youthful. Science still isn't entirely sure how they do it, but it's safe to say they're not following our script. Then there's the hydra, a tiny freshwater organism that might actually be biologically immortal. It constantly regenerates its cells and shows no increase in mortality with age. If it doesn't get eaten or poisoned, it could theoretically live forever. That's right, somewhere out there, a slimy tube with tentacles is doing just fine. Thank you very much. And don't forget the Greenland shark, which can live over 400 years. That means some of them were swimming around before Shakespeare was even born. They age incredibly slowly and don't even reach sexual maturity until about 150. Talk about taking your time. So what gives? Why do they get to cheat the system? In many cases, it comes down to genetics, low metabolic rates, efficient cell repair systems, and environments that don't put too much stress on their bodies. For example, cold water slows down cellular damage. Some of these animals also have extra copies of protective genes, or they keep dividing stem cells longer than we do. Now, here's the million-dollar question scientists are asking. Can we borrow any of these tricks? Can we turn the secrets of these slow-aging species into medicines or treatments for humans? We're not there yet, but researchers are already studying how mole rats resist cancer and how hydras keep regenerating. Who knows? In a few decades, your anti-aging cream might be powered by lessons from a jelly blob. Until then, we're left with some tougher approaches to aging, like eating less. Let's take a peek into the science of caloric restriction and why eating less, under very controlled conditions, might be one of the most promising ways to slow aging in humans. It's the anti-party advice you never asked for. If you want to live longer, consider skipping dessert, and maybe dinner too. Okay, not literally, but this is all about caloric restriction, the surprisingly effective and scientifically verified strategy of reducing your calorie intake without causing malnutrition. This idea first came to light in studies on rodents back in the 1930s. Scientists noticed that mice fed 30 to 40% fewer calories than normal lived significantly longer and aged more slowly. Their risk of cancer, diabetes, and cognitive decline dropped. Basically, they were leaner, meaner, and lasted way longer if a little grumpy. And it's not just mice. Caloric restriction has shown similar results in worms, flies, monkeys, and even yeast. For humans, we don't have 100-year-long studies because researchers like to retire at some point, but early data is promising. People on calorie-restricted diets tend to have lower cholesterol, better blood sugar control, and reduced markers of inflammation and oxidative stress, all things associated with aging. So, what's the science behind it? When your body senses fewer calories, it shifts into survival mode. This means it becomes more efficient at using energy and activates protective pathways like autophagy, where your cells clean out their own junk. It's a Marie Kondo moment for your mitochondria. Fewer calories also mean less cellular damage from metabolism, fewer free radicals, and a gentler load on your organs. That said, starving yourself is not the takeaway here. The key is controlled reduction, usually around 10 to 30% fewer calories, while still getting all the nutrients your body needs. And yes, it's hard to stick to. You try turning down pizza for extra years on Earth, and let me know how that goes. Newer approaches, like intermittent fasting, eating only during certain hours of the day, and time-restricted eating are gaining popularity because they offer similar metabolic benefits without having to permanently eat like a monk. In the future, scientists hope to develop drugs that mimic the benefits of caloric restriction, activating the same genes and pathways without the whole eat less part. So now let's dig into the promising world of anti-aging medicine, the molecules, the experiments, and the cautious hope that we might be able to slow down aging from the inside out. Imagine a future where your doctor prescribes a pill, not to cure an illness, but to delay the wear and tear of time itself. Sounds like science fiction, but aging researchers are inching closer to turning that into a science fact. First up is rapamycin, a drug originally used to suppress the immune system after organ transplants. Somewhere along the way, researchers discovered that it also happens to extend lifespan in mice by up to 60% in some cases. It works by targeting a cellular pathway called mTOR, which controls growth and metabolism. When you dial mTOR down, cells go into maintenance mode. Less growth, but more repair. It's like telling your body, hey, stop partying, time to clean up. Then there's metformin, a humble diabetes drug that's been quietly making waves. People taking it seem to have lower rates of cancer, heart disease, and possibly even cognitive decline. A big clinical trial called TAME, Targeting Aging with Metformin, is underway to test whether it can actually delay aging-related diseases in otherwise healthy people. No, it won't make you immortal, but it might help you age a little more gracefully. Scientists are also experimenting with NAD+ boosters, like NMN and NR, nicotinamide mononucleotide and riboside. If you're feeling fancy, NAD+ is a molecule your cells need for energy and DNA repair, but levels drop with age. Boosting it seems to rev up cell function in older animals, and maybe even humans. You'll find these in supplements marketed as cellular rejuvenation in a bottle. Just don't buy them without a grain of skepticism, and maybe a doctor's advice. And remember those pesky senescent cells we talked about earlier? Researchers are now testing senolytics, drugs that specifically target and remove these old, toxic cells. Early studies in mice have shown improved physical function and even extended lifespan after clearing them out. Human trials are still in the early stages, but the results so far are encouraging. But again, let's be clear, we're not there yet. Most of these treatments are experimental, not FDA approved for anti-aging, and some come with risks. But the fact that scientists are no longer asking if we can slow aging, but how, is a huge improvement. So until then, let's explore what role genetics plays in all this. Are some people just born lucky with slower aging genes? Or can lifestyle really tip the balance? Some people seem to age like fine wine. Others age like a banana left in the sun. Is it skincare? Pilates? Or did their DNA just smile down on them from birth? Spoiler, it's mostly the DNA. Lifestyle matters. A lot. But your genes have a strong influence on how your body handles aging right from the beginning. Scientists estimate that your genetic makeup accounts for about 20 to 30% of how long you live. That means the rest is shaped by environment, lifestyle, stress, diet, and maybe how many times you've yelled at your Wi-Fi router. But still, your genes aren't innocent bystanders. There's a whole cocktail of genes that play a role in how you age. Some are involved in DNA repair, like the WRN and BRCA genes. Others regulate cellular cleanup via autophagy, and a few influence inflammation and stress responses. If your body's instruction manual includes robust versions of these genes, you're already in better shape than most. One gene often linked to longevity is FOXO3. People who live past 100 tend to carry a specific version of this gene. It's like the genetic equivalent of an overachiever, regulating insulin sensitivity, cell survival, and stress resistance all at once. APO is another gene associated with aging. Some versions offer protection against Alzheimer's, while others increase the risk of developing it. Then there are the telomere genes, those involved in maintaining the protective caps on your chromosomes. Longer telomeres are associated with longer lifespan. Unfortunately, we don't get to pick our telomere length at birth, but research suggests we can influence how fast they shorten through diet, sleep, stress, and exercise. Also, meet the centenarians, the unofficial mascots of graceful aging. Many of them live in so-called blue zones like Okinawa, Sardinia, and Ikaria, where long life tends to run in families. But it's not just the genetics. They also eat whole foods, stay active, get good sleep, and remain socially connected. In other words, good habits still make a meaningful difference in how well that genetic starting point holds up over time. Even so, no gene can make you invincible. A body with the best genetic head start can still be worn down by chronic stress, poor diet, or a lifetime of dedicated couch sitting. So to wrap things up, let's tie everything together by looking at a question scientists have wrestled with for decades. Why does nature allow aging to happen in the first place, especially if evolution is all about survival? Here's the thing. Evolution doesn't actually care how long you live. It only cares how long you can reproduce successfully and pass on your genes. Once you've hit your prime baby-making years, you've essentially done your job in the eyes of evolution. Everything after that, meh, you're on your own. This concept is called the disposable soma theory. In short, your body, the soma, is built to get you through the reproductive phase. Afterward, there's little evolutionary pressure to keep the system running at full efficiency. Resources go toward reproduction, not indefinite maintenance. Nature's like, thanks for your service. Good luck with the rust. Another perspective is antagonistic pleiotropy. That's a fancy term for traits that are helpful when you're young, but harmful when you're old. Take high levels of testosterone. Great for early life strength and mating success, but it might increase the risk of certain diseases later. Evolution shrugs. You already passed on your genes. There's also the idea of genetic drift. Some harmful mutations don't get weeded out because they only kick in after reproductive age. If a gene causes cancer at 80, natural selection barely notices. It's like getting fined for breaking a law after you've already left the country. Now, some animals, like those long-lived sharks we mentioned earlier, do seem to sidestep these rules. They live in safe environments, reproduce later, or have biology built for extreme longevity. But for humans, our bodies just weren't designed with a forever plan. Fortunately, science is starting to fill in that gap. So why do we get old? Because biology didn't plan for us to stick around past the encore. But thanks to modern medicine, technology, and a very determined group of scientists, and maybe some calorie counting, we're starting to change that story. Still, Maybe the secret to aging well isn't avoiding it, but understanding it, laughing at it, and doing what we can to keep things running smoothly, even if your back makes a sound every time you sit down. If this made you think twice about your next midnight snack, or at least gave your mitochondria a little credit, go ahead and hit that like button. And hey, we're only just scratching the surface. Subscribe for more mind-blowing science stories. Got a topic you want us to break down next? Drop it in the comments. Let's keep aging smartly and learning even more wisely. See you next time.